Hi, welcome to Matt Holman Golf. I thought we'd take a look at Ernie Els here today, sort of past and present. On the right hand side was maybe Ernie's swing from a year or so ago, and this on the left hand side, some footage I pulled from a lesson I took at the David Ledbetter Academy maybe 6-7 years ago, but this was when he was at his best, I think, after he'd won one of his US Opens or even between that period. So I thought we could see if we can see any differences. I think largely it's the same swing. Setup looks very similar. Let's have a look on the left hand side. I think there's a few actual differences that I notice. So we've got a shaft plane line on there. I think one thing, the modern swing these days has gone more towards where the club face, so at that point there, matches the spine. So Ernie, I think he was working with Claude Holman, who I took lessons from for about 2 years or so, and I can see some differences. So one, the club face is tending to match our spine a little bit more, where Ernie's certainly a swing that I've looked at a lot, and he was always very much, haven't quite got the frames here, but a little bit more sort of toe up through this phase. So when we go similar position, you can see how that club face is just looking at the ground a little bit more. Now, as he then swings to the top, due to that, I always noticed, great lines, shaft pointing just inside the ball, and I don't think that's going to really change. For me, sort of best halfway back move in the game. So I think what you're going to notice at the top, his left arm is going to be higher, and on this footage it's tricky to see, but club face is also a little more open. So, largely where we've had a bit more rotation at the start of the swing, the club face is in a slightly more open position at the top. So on the left hand side it's not as clear as I would like it to be, but the club face is more matching his left arm now. And we can also see how, I think is more noticeable and clear on the footage, the left arm is actually a little flatter than it used to be. So it's nearer to matching his shoulder plane. So we just sort of put a rough line up his left arm there, and then we do the same on the right hand side. We can see there's a slight difference in angle there. So his arms to me definitely look a little bit lower and flatter. And now as he makes his change of direction, I think this is where we're going to be able to see the club face a little more. Let's try and, we can see that you can sort of see the club face there, sort of left of the shaft a little bit, whereas he makes this move on the right hand side, we're going to be able to see, hopefully, it's not as clear as I'd like it to be, but this point here, we can go 1 or 2 frames more, we can just see that the club head's sort of matching with the shaft a little bit more, of anything looking a little bit more right, and through these faces again we can just see a little bit of club face there, where here it's certainly a little bit more open, keeping everything very much in front of him, left arm in front, and a great looking position here. I mean, it's fantastic looking swing, but it's interesting how, in certain respects it's just changed a little. Club face is definitely in, left arm slightly more from the inside. It was interesting to speak to Sean Hogan, who works as David Ledbetter's assistant for about 20 years, and he said really 50% of Ernie's lessons with David were just trying to actually get him to feel a little bit more of a draw in transition, so, or in hitting draws, because if we look at his swing on the right hand side here compared to the left, I think what's quite noticeable is how his left arm is more from the inside. So if we just drop a line straight down his hands, you can see how in relation to the butt end of the club and his toe line, you can see that the left arm is working more from the inside, and then he turns and moves everything through. So in some respects, to be honest, I mean, Ernie's swing is never bad, but I actually prefer the swing on the right hand side. You know, certainly not bad on this left hand side, but it's definitely moved towards where modern instruction has gone with the golf swing. One thing I really do like on the left hand side here, and I think this footage was taken when after he just won a tournament and hit the most greens he's ever hit, or Ernie to me often has quite a lot of rotation going through, so you can really see how the toe has passed the shaft, where on the left hand side there, sort of a very passive release where the face is looking back. Now certainly as well on the left hand side here he's hitting more of a fade shot, and you're going to see that left arm work more in front and the face look back a little bit more. On the right hand side it looks like he's hitting a little bit more of a draw with the face rolling over. But just thought I'd try and highlight a few differences that you can see. The last point to talk about, I know I watched a seminar actually with Claude talking about Ernie's swing and what they had worked on, and what he was talking about was Ernie had an injury and that his left foot moved around more, wasn't as stable as it used to be, and then he felt from there he would tend to lean back through the ball too much. The left foot would sort of move towards the target toe wise and be a bit of unstable. When that tends to happen, we try and rebalance and our body will tend to move back a little bit. When we get that in a better player again, you can tend to push and hook a little bit more. So if we look on this left hand side here and we just look at that front foot, look at through impacts, and I was always really aware of that, how it just doesn't really move at all. So I think after Ernie had an injury, I think it was to his knee or his ACL, or again he's mostly not quite as good mobility, or his movement pattern changed. So we watch that front toe now, you're just going to see how it's just going to twist a little bit. So we look at where it started, it just moves from front on, it's more noticeable, and I'll try and post a video so you can see it more clearly. But I know there are a couple of things they've worked on. I thought it may just be interesting to highlight that. And I've noticed it over the years how Ernie's swing has got slightly flatter in the backswing at the top. It's matched his shoulder plane a little bit more. On the club face, I've noticed that there's less rotation going back. So I just thought it'd be interesting to post sort of a before and after. Both great swings, won many tournaments. I think you're not going to go wrong copying either.